What up, people? It's your boy Triple BLACK, aka the number one stunner, aka the boss. Anyways, man, I want to agree with the ADOS, man. You guys are, I mean, you're absolutely right, and I've been, I guess, and I'm not saying this as a disparaging type of thing. I guess I really didn't look at the ADOS movement from a different perspective. Pretty much all I did was, I heard them saying some disparaging things about black immigrants, and I kind of just, I said, fuck all the rest. I don't really give a shit. But the they are kind of right about being the most damaged, of all, like, the people of the African diaspora. I have to agree with them with that. One of the things is because I was like listening to someone and they were talking about being from Trinidad and Tobago, and how slavery and stuff like that ended before before America. A lot of the Caribbean countries, slavery had ended before that. Like, in Haiti, it ended in 1804. And, a lot of other countries, they got liberated, like, Venezuela, all through the Caribbean. It's sometimes it was like 40, 50 years before, the slaves in America got free. But, there's always been free slaves in America, throughout the existence of America. There's always been free black people in this country and all through the Caribbean. And I think a lot of the free black people were like, the people that they kind of outcast now as the boule and all those type of people, like the mulattoes, those people that are like, the fair skin type people, you guys know who they are. Let's not play that game, but you got to understand, you had a lot of trauma. And one of the things that I'm thankful for now, even though my parents were born in a third world country, was that a lot of the stain of slavery didn't really, I guess it hasn't affected me as hard, I guess, as a typical African American. That they have generations and generations of people that wore that stuff, on their forefront. Like Haitians were, we were taught to be. I mean, even though we were in a third world country, we kind of almost taught to be proud of our lineage, our heritage. So we've always had our own flag. We always had our own existence, and I guess in America, you've never really had that, because you had, for instance, growing up in America, you have the American flag, which, as a person of the African diaspora, you can't really be proud of that one. So, and you have all these different events, like, you had Jim Crow, you had, the prison industrial complex, all these things that, these people were subjugated to. And that created a lot of damage. I mean, that's created a lot of damage. And I think one of the things that makes Caribbean people or African people much different is the systematic stuff that they have been dealing with has damaged their psyche a lot more. And don't take this, I'm making it as a despair. I'm coming to a common ground, because I started to think of, I was like, man, why all these people have so much vitriol for people coming over here for a better life. And I didn't really take it in consideration, the damage that's really, that these institutions have really cost the people. And I don't know if reparations. Huh?
You called her?
Yeah, I called her.
Oh.
Yeah, she's nothing. She's not trying to do nothing.
Oh, okay.
She's not trying to do nothing right now. Um, but those, those institutions, such as Jim Crow, you know, the prison industrial complex, also the crack epidemic, all those type of things, has has really damaged the I guess the people. I mean, it's the people. And again, don't take this as a disparaging, like I'm looking down or saying that, but I'm just trying to relate because you know, me as a kid, one of the things that I think one of the best things that my parents did for me was they took me to the third world country. They let me visit Haiti. They let me know at an early age, the advantages that I have over where they came from. And I got to see the world, and I think that really kind of changed me for a long time, because I remember when I was like 10 years old, 8 years old, going to go visit my brothers and my sisters in Haiti. They didn't even have like a stove. They didn't have a refrigerator. Certain luxuries that we took it like we. I mean, it was crazy. It was literally, you know, think about it. The worst ghetto that you could ever be in. That was just par for the course. Like the worst hood that you could ever be in, that was not even, actually, that wasn't even close to just like normal life in Haiti. It was normal. I mean, it's that. And I think that was a, I think it was an important lesson. And I think also that was a very important lesson because it really never allowed me to get comfortable. It really never allowed me to be get comfortable because I've always had in my back of my mind, you know what, those people over in Haiti are living, worse than I am. Hey, what's up, Belizean Bang? Shout out to him, man. Man, we're gonna need you on the panel this Sunday. We're gonna go on the panel again. But the thing I was also wanted to think about, I was like, man, you know what? A lot of the Caribbean people, that come over here probably had a lot of similar experience, and a lot of the African people. And it, no matter how great it was to be in America, it probably never allowed you to be comfortable. You're always trying to, because you know where you came from. You know where you came from. And I think that's one of the differences of just a mentality and difference. And I'm not, trying to disparage anybody. I'm just having honest conversation because under a lot of my comments, people have a lot of vitriol for me, and sometimes I had to look back. I'm like, am I arrogant or something like that? Am I, me speaking what I perceive as the truth? I mean, it offends a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? And I do admit I didn't really look at the ADOS movement from like a person that might be ADOS. A lot of trying to big themselves, big up themselves, trying to big up themselves. Yeah, yeah. But I never really looked at it from their perspective. Like it was like the damage, because it's like those group of people, they were afforded, all these opportunities, but the institutions never really allowed them to get those opportunities, really. and and you have a, let's look at it from a logical standpoint. Let's take away the emotion and everything like that. But if you look at it, right, you have a slave master, You have a slave, I mean a slave master, and then people that own the slaves, right? And then now all of a sudden you have a population that is free. The population that is free, you know that you've done all this stuff to them. You raped their, mothers, you raped their fathers, you beat them, you killed them, you did all kinds of stuff to them. So you're going to have some type of paranoia knowing that you've done that to those people. You know, now that you're forced to kind of let them be free, it's always going to be in the back of your mind, man, these people probably fucking hate us. They probably want to kill us. That's, and they probably want to kill us. But we have to find a way to make them comfortable enough to where we can subjugate them. We can subjugate them. We can create these fake institutions and 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 pretend like they have these opportunities, and but we have to find ways to mentally fuck them. We have to find ways to mentally fuck them. I mean, it's a horrible thing, but they've managed to do it. And man, my bad, man. I guess the white supremacists were, they saw me talking that talk. But what's crazy, what I was getting at is the these institutions, man. Maybe they are right. Maybe they did use the immigrants and things like that as a mean to kind of, I guess, to kind of keep them down. So I have to give that to them. I'm just looking at it from a different perspective, because it really doesn't make any sense to me why people would migrate to a different country. I don't know what the hell's going on. Uh, every time it seems like I'm trying to make a point or something like that, they cut off my stream. I don't. I mean, I have great Wi-Fi connection, so it doesn't make any damn sense. What I was saying was, I guess it took me forever to really realize that I just kind of with protecting my own, because a lot of the rhetoric, and the rhetoric that was forced. I mean that I guess the rhetoric that a lot of the ADOS movement was using, but it does make sense now, because when you are damaged, you are easily manipulated. You're very easily manipulated. When you're subjugated, it's just like, for instance, a woman that comes, from an abusive home. She's very manipulated. She's very manipulated, by the person that's doing the abusing, and then they're very manipulated by a person on the outside, like the side dude or whatever. It's those type of people are very manipulated, and you got to think about it. When they they can't, like, especially like the leaders of the like this movement, if you if they were to be intellectually honest, that's why you never see them debate, I've never seen them really debate with anybody. They always, whenever room they're in, it's almost on this group think thing, because they'll have to start asking, answering questions, and that's something that they don't want to do. So, they have their list of talking points where they don't really have to engage in real productive conversation with people, and answer questions. I saw a video this morning with shout out to that guy Haven Bullets. I'm gonna reach out to him. I got to find his email to see when he drew on the panel, but he be going hard on it. But he had uh, a a video of Yvette Carnell, which was crazy, and she was talking about because a caller had put her on the spot, and all of a sudden she kind of changed her tone about how reparations was. Now it's cut the check, but at the time she was talking about how reparations needs to be something else. She was talking like a logical person, and it sounded completely different. And but you get these moments, where in the past, like for instance, Tariq Nasheed, the way that he was talking, and I don't want to go through his bullet points. The reason I'm mentioning him because he's kind of a face of it. Like they were talking about a whole bunch of other stuff, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's why they kind of shelter themselves away from having real conversations with people that are not ADOS, and they kind of just stick to the script of stay on code, hold your own nuts and those type of things. Because when they start having to answer those questions, it's going to put them in a pickle. It's going to put them in a real pickle. It's going to be like, well, like for instance, why is a person that's leading your movement anti, I mean not anti, but a lesbian? Why is that? Why is that? And it's documented that you know the LGBT community supposedly has been, basically an organization that's been trying to destroy black men and black families forever. I guess part of reparations and things like that is rebuilding the black family and the black man and everything like that. But you have a person that's leading the movement that was accused of that. So it's not even an intellectual argument. It's just like you're going to be forced to answer to those things, and you can't use your deflection technique of hold your own nuts and we're just fighting for ours, and that type of deflection. You have to actually make an argument against it. So if you insulate yourself from doing that, you can manipulate who the hell you want to, and I think a lot of this is manipulation, and it's manipulation. It is manipulation because there's talk. There's just too much talking out of both sides of your mouth. It just can't be that way. It's too much of talking out of both sides of your mouth. I mean, you can't be xenophobic, and one day, and then be like Pan African the other day, and then melanated the other day, and then say, and no, you can't do that. And part of reparations, I think that really needs to happen, and I don't know how that, and if Black folks start getting the resources, is we really need to go outside your hood, outside your neighborhood. You really need to travel the world, because I think when you travel the world, it makes people, it forces people to have a different perspective. When you do go to these countries, like Haiti, you go to these countries like, the Sudan or whatever, it forces you to really have a different perspective that, the opportunities that you have here are just, tremendous. Listen, a lot of Caribbeans are trying to big up themselves. Yeah, yeah. But but like the thing in my video, it is, and I think from a Caribbean standpoint, we do have to realize the damage that's done, that's been done, you know through this type of slavery. And I'm not saying Caribbean people and African people are much better or whatever, but it is a different type of beast. A lot of our issues goes back to tribalism, and a lot of our issue goes back to colonialism. You know, the colonial, the colonial. It's like our version of apartheid. You know, our version of apartheid, and that has, you know, caused a significant amount of damage. I think amongst our people too, but they're because you have to understand, in America, it's it is white supremacy. Like, this is a system that, I mean, this is the most perfected form of white supremacy that you can ever find in anywhere, like anywhere. It's the most potent form of white supremacy. And America, I mean, up until, I mean, it's been able to perfect it. It's been able to perfect white supremacy so much that they were able to elect and actually vote in a white supremacist into office. That how much perfect. I mean, Caribbean folks and African people, you have to understand, they are right to a certain extent. The damage to their mindset, and this is not disparaging, but this that type of stain is it's not necessarily worse, because you know, the type of slavery that Caribbean people went through is a little bit different, because it, you know, a lot of us were constantly revolting against it. You know that you had Haiti, and you always had all these revolts. I mean, you've had revolts in America, but it's you got to understand, this type of slavery where people were subjugated. It was like a coordinated coordinated effort between two people. Like, I don't know what the definition of chattel slavery. Okay, so shout out to Traveler. Soul Traveler put up a video the other day about this slave house, and and a lot of the descendants of the slaves still work there to this day. I've seen many examples of that. I've seen many examples of that, and it's, hold on a second. Let me just read this real quick. Even our black politicians participate in white supremacy. The congressional black cause, but I'm starting to see people waking up to CBC. I don't know what CBC means. Oh yeah, yeah. They're waking up to it. But you have to understand, also, in even in slavery there was free slaves. You know, there were free slaves. There was a lot of, you know, different, you know, ethnic, sub-ethnic groups now that are considered black. They wasn't considered black back then, like, you know, for instance, the mulattoes. And I'm not trying to create some Willie Lynch shit, but it is right. There, all through history, there's always been groups of blacks that have been complacent or complicit. That's the right word, in what was happening to people. They've always been complicit in it, because, you know, like for instance, let me guess. All right, one of the things, and I'm sorry, I'm not going all over the place. Uh, they have a saying that says, you'll never be worth. I mean, you'll never get paid what you're worth unless you're the son or the daughter of the boss. And you guys have to understand that this type of slavery, everybody was in really close quarters. So a lot of the sons and the daughters of the slave masters did get paid what they're worth. And the slaves, did not even get paid at all. So their payoff was a little bit different, and this has happened all through history. If you look at, like, a lot of organizations, and you're like, well, you know what, this person is considered black. How come they are, you know, how come they have generations of people that went to college? They have generations of generations and generations of people that own land. They have generations of people that's been successful. You know why? Because I mean, even though that they may been, the offspring of a slave, they had a certain amount of freedom that a lot of the slaves didn't have. So that was a different experience. That was a different experience. And you guys know this. I mean, and you, if you look at like, for instance, a group that he just brought up was the Congressional Black Caucus. Let's just be honest about who they is. Just look at their, I mean, look at them, like Ben Jealous. That was the leader of the NAACP. Look at him. Look at him. For real, just look at him. Barack Obama. Just look at him. I mean, it's, and I'm not trying to create this, culture war or this, brown paper bag test, but you have to, when you start looking at the experience of people, you can't ignore the caste system that we do have in America. We do have a caste system in America. And we do have a caste system in America. And there's going to be among like people like of the ADOS, right? For instance, you have a person like Yvette Carnell. That sister. I mean, I'm not disrespecting her in any way, but I think somebody put in the comments the other day that she did her lineage and she's like 60% African and African or African descent and like 40% something else. So you have a lot of those people that it's convenient for them to be black. It's really convenient for them to be black, at certain times, but probably like, maybe 25% of the time they're black, and 75% of the time they're not black. They're something else, and they act something else. They live somewhere else. They live where you don't live at. But majority of the time, like 99% of the time, they're controlling the narrative. How does that happen? And it's probably not something that, that's on our conscious all the time, but think about it, man. Is if you look at the power structure in this country and you just look at it by skin tone, just look at it. Just look at the power structure. Even like one of your, the ADOS heroes, Dr. Claude Anderson. Look at him. I mean, you ain't got to take my word for it. Just look at him. And just look at him. Just look at, like, the people that like, that go to Howard, that go to Howard. I mean, it's been, that's, I'm trying to use different words, but look at it. And it kind of, it does make sense to, if you look at it from like a Yvette Carnell perspective, she was able to pass the brown paper bag test. She was able to pass the brown paper bag test, and she went to Howard and stuff like that. But if you're able to pass the brown paper bag test, and all of a sudden, something that you felt that was exclusively for you, which was the slave master's children, the slave master's children, and you felt like this institution was exclusively for you. Now you have people that are not the slave masters' children per se. They're coming in and they're, not only they're outperforming you, but they're getting the same opportunity as you because the way that the slave master pretty much wrote it. The slave master didn't really want you to have all the advantages. He didn't, because they know there were part of you that had a lot of disdain for him and wanted to, to annihilate them. I mean, you can't just rape and torture and kill a person's ancestry and then think that they're just going to be okay with it. I mean, he knew there was a certain amount of uh, of of disdain that you still had for him, so he had to create competition for you. So what better competition than someone that's, you know of course, that you wanted to be close to white supremacy. You always wanted to be accepted. I mean, like that. How I mean, I'm just using Howard as an example. You always, you went to Howard. I mean, if somebody says they went to Harvard, you can just say that you went to Howard. But now you have people with higher concentrations of melanin coming in there, and they're basically outperforming you. And they got these different sounding last names. They got these accents. They come from a third world existence. That's really, really, really have to make you feel insecure. That really, 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 and that's where the damage comes in. That means that's the damage. That is really the damage. Like you're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm finally getting the recognition, and then slave master just brings in a new crop of people, and and they put them at basically at the same place I am, and then I gotta outdo these people again. And it has been all through history. They're acting like 1965 is when it started. They've had the Italians, they had the Irish, they had the all type of immigrant groups like the Vietnamese. All these type of immigrant groups come in and pretty much I guess I mean, I don't know how it happens. I'm not an intellectual like that, but they brought them in. So you do have a point of that. Is the thing I ask you is you've known this documented history of your oppressor or whatever, your slave master have done this to you. They've always made you think this thing was exclusive to you, and then years later you find out it was supposed to be exclusive for me. Now, do you and have you ever thought that this is what was by design, that it will never be exclusive to you because of this? Have you ever thought about that? That it will never, ever be exclusive to you. No matter what you think, they're always going to put that obstacle in front of you. They're always going to put that obstacle in front of you. They'll be like, well, you know what? They'll never band together and create their own thing. They're always going to live in my system. If they live in my system, it's my rules. That's pretty much what it is. And they make the rules. And I don't know what would ever make you think that people from a different country would ever like come to a different and like risk their lives just to be second class. I mean, it's just like the competitive nature in you. Like if you're on a football team and someone and they bring somebody into your position, you think that person is not trying to take that other person's position. I mean, I don't know what world that you live in, and I almost think that you own they think that white daddy, and I hate to say that, has a little bit more, I guess, love for them than they have for everyone else. I think that's what it is. I think, you know what, they do love us, and I think a lot of things in Caribbean people that grew up in the Caribbean, that had parents in the Caribbean and stuff, you have to understand that the two, what is the experiment of America? There's two people that's been the longest together. You have the slave master, and you have the slave. Those two people. And you have like a group like the ADOS, which comprises of that, those two people, the slave master and the slave. So we will never ever understand the relationship. You we will never like we will never understand how easily they can manipulate, like the slave master can manipulate the slave, because it's a different experience. Maybe the Haitians and the French government, or the slave, we might have that same type of experience with our oppressor, and it's probably a whole different experience. And I'm kind of in the middle, because I grew up in America. My parents immigrated from Haiti, so a lot of the stain of their type of slavery, I don't have any idea about, just because I was insulated to that, and I I didn't know it. I don't know any better. My brothers and sisters that were born in Haiti, their experience is a little bit different. They kind of look the world a little bit different. Like somebody like Soul Traveler and me, we were born a different existence in America, so we don't understand that now. Like a Jamaican and the British people, they may have a relationship that we don't understand. But you have to understand, I think in America, like especially with the ADOS, there's a relationship between them and white supremacy that we'll never understand. Like we can be on the outside looking in and being like, man, this shit doesn't make any damn sense. And, this shit doesn't make any sense. And we'll never understand it. I guess I'll never understand it. Like, for instance, me and my wife got in an argument last night. Because I'm self-employed, and it's a hard thing. I mean, it's a hard thing. I worked for a corporation for 14 years, different corporations for 14 years, and for the last 5 months, I've kind of just been on my own, doing my own entrepreneur thing, and the success doesn't come right away, because I just thought about, man, I'm never ever ever going to put myself in another position to where I can call somebody a boss. They can, fire me. They can hire me whenever they want to. I'll never ever put my position on that. I will be my own boss from now on, because I'll never ever do that, right? But for the whole last 5 months, she just wants me to have a job. She keeps talking about a job, job. Like, a job. Like her mentality, it was like her dad worked, 30 years of his life, clocking in and clocking out, clocking in and I mean, he had a pretty good job, but it was just like the whole thing of a job. She is ADOS. Her parents are both ADOS. So that whole mentality of, just being under the thumb of a boss and telling you what to do. She's always made like low key, disparaging comments about about just like my people or whatever. I mean, it is, I mean, it's a cultural thing. But it was very telling. It was very telling because my dad was completely different than what I learned in school. American mentality was, you go to school, you get good grades, you go to college, and you get a good job. You be a good Negro. You just be a good Negro. You know, not hey, learn everything that you can learn about a certain business or what's the name, and then you be your own boss. That's not really taught to us. It's really not taught to us at all. You have Calvin, Calvin from McDonald's. Calvin is honorable right there. Calvin is honorable. He works a good job, Calvin. You know what I'm saying? That that is that is the guy that a lot of people want. Calvin. Calvin's never traveled outside of the country. Shit, Calvin has barely been out of his neighborhood. But we were able to keep Calvin. Calvin, like Calvin, and that was it. It was something was very telling about everything about I guess wannabe reparations all throughout history. One of the things was the HBCUs, the HBCUs, and the reason that you have HBCUs and they all like A&M, and I think A&M stands for agricultural and mechanics or something like that. A lot of those colleges are, they basically, to put it in a nutshell, they basically teach you how to be an employee. And the reason that they needed to do that, it was because out of slavery you had a lot of slaves with a lot of different skills, and instead of teaching them how to be entrepreneur, you need to teach them to be an employee. So you had a lot of these different corporations and stuff like that that donated a lot of money. Like you had Pepsi, you had was it Coca-Cola? I mean, numerous of these corporations, that set up shop in like Atlanta and like these type of places, and funded a lot of these these HBCUs to kind of engineer employees, because if you look at and somebody was telling me about this, like pretty much none of them had entrepreneur degrees. People that taught you how to be a boss. It's mostly how to because a lot of the slaves were sharecroppers, so they had skills in growing vegetables and doing that. They wouldn't let them be farmers. They would let them be farmhands, instead of owning your own farm and being an entrepreneur. They were mostly farmhands and stuff like that. So I guess it was a very contrived effort, to start these schools, to give black people's incentives to go to these schools, but the end goal was to make them an employee, which it's crazy how how a good intentioned thing turned out to be that. I don't know, but anyways, make sure you guys like the video, man. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up button. I'm just freestyling right now. Gosh, I wish YouTube would block you. I saw you. I saw one of your videos where you insult were so low. I mean, where you insult was so low. Our ancestors, totally uncalled for. I hope you're hunted. Do your research because you're so ignorant. I insulted our ancestors. Okay. I don't even know. But no, she's I think maybe that's the lady I got in a little squabble with about whatever. She's like one of those Bill Cosby type people, like waving the finger at you, like stay in your place, boy. Like stay in your don't 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 make Massa mad. Don't make Massa mad. Stay in your place, boy. You gonna get us all killed out here. You gonna get us all killed out here. Oh God, man. You know what? If you said hunted, you're hunted or haunted. Because that's a damn threat right there. Yeah, she's one of the. I think she's one of those like, oh please don't tell Massa. Massa's going to get and then later at the night she's probably in Massa's bed, or telling on a whole bunch of group of slaves or whatever. That is the type of person that probably is right there. I will put money on it. I would put your ADO. Of course, you and Massa are two peas in the pod. Of course you are. Of course. I mean, the loyalist to Massa is usually a descendant from his bloodline. That is the loyalist. You mean you guys are so goddamn loyal. Like you're loyal as hell. You're loyal as hell. You're so goddamn loyal that you're trying to convince your people that Donald Trump is a better option. A confirmed white supremacist. That's how loyal you are. You are convinced. You have a campaign right now that's convincing your people. I'm saying your insults on our end are just cruel. That's all I'm saying. What insults am I saying? What insults am I saying? My ancestors, like somehow this melanated skin that I have right here is doesn't make me it just doesn't make me exclusive. Is he saying the same thing now? I don't know. I mean, I guess your ancestors and my ancestors are somehow different. Your ancestors and my ancestors are somehow different. They are, they are absolutely right. There are absolutely, somebody said that on they sent the Defiant slaves over to the Caribbean. I think I should watch what I say. I mean, what? Okay. All right, I should watch what I say. And what am I saying that is no, you feel like it's disrespectful. Like what they always say, a hit dog will holler. A hit dog will holler. A hit dog will holler. They will. I mean, if you hit a dog, it's gonna holler. I don't care how. I mean, if a mosquito bites a dog, it's gonna holler, no matter how small. I mean, come on, man. Listen, the rhetoric that you guys been using, to kind of justify your point. What am I so concerned? The reason I'm so concerned is you guys right out the gate, instead of asking for reparations and asking to repair what was gone with your community, you immediately came after black immigrants, which my parents were black immigrants. You basically said we were riding your coattails. We were, stealing stuff. We co-opted your movement. We haven't reciprocated. We basically came into this country to be a white. I mean, we've been cooning and all kinds of stuff. That's how a person. I mean, that the people that started your acronym that started the acronym, the ADOS. This is the talking points that they were using to sell this idea. And you don't got to take my word for it. You just go look at their talking points. The biggest enemy of of y'all was the African and the Caribbean people. You don't got to take my word for it. Just go look at your leadership, the people that's leading this movement. Just look at them. Just listen to the rhetoric that they say. It's mostly, and that's how a lot of this movement got legs, is because it was anti-immigrant. It was anti-black immigrant. It was anti-immigrant before. It was anti-LGBT, but now they're kind of focusing on the black immigrant. The reason why, there's a justification. There's a black immigrant justification for everything. Like, for instance, affirmative action. The reason that affirmative action did not work was because Nigerian or African immigrants were taking advantage of it. Black Haitians were taking advantage of it. About a week ago, it was white women or white Hispanic women that were taking advantage of it. But they've narrowed it down and said that the black immigrants are the one to most blame for it, because we've been in blackface, which we weren't in black, and we've been co-opting all this stuff. This is the best way I can explain this. This is so deep. What we're dealing with 400 years of slavery, and mentally and physically. Did you watch my whole video? Because I'm telling you, I'm agreeing with you. It's something that we're never understanding. Like, for instance, people from the Caribbean, are probably 200 years out of slavery. You guys are almost probably not even 50 years out of true, what's the name? I understand that. I feel those were overgeneralizing claims, because there are some black immigrants that try to separate themselves, but I don't feel that coonery should be projected on every black immigrant. I believe she missed the beginning of the video. Yeah, I think she missed the beginning of the video. I told you, I admitted that I was so focused on defense of black immigrants that I really did not realize the damage of what the ADOS people I'm not going to say have done to themselves, has this country had, like, their experience, and I'm not going to marginalize other people's experience, but it's a horrible, it's a much more horrible experience, because you've been living in a society that's been telling you, and you've been fighting to be equal to the person. You've been fighting to be equal. Instead of, when you were free, instead of just being free, you wanted to be equal. And that is a messed up experience, because the person that you've been begging for this freedom has been coming up with things and telling you that you are free, you have all these opportunities, when you don't. And you guys have to realize, these opportunities that you were thinking that was exclusively for you was just a trick. It wasn't exclusively for you. One word cannot change the whole complexity of affirmative action if it wasn't intended. If you were not born Black American in this country and share our struggle, I just don't understand how you can have an opinion at all. I have an opinion because my son and my wife would be in your boat. They're Black Americans. I guess they would. He would be half Black. I guess I'm not Black anymore, but I was born in this country. I was born in this country in American. I grew up American, so well, let them talk. What you're not understanding is you just like your movement just took a big boulder and bashed my ancestry, my parents over the head with something. And then now you're trying to tell us to to just be okay with it. You don't understand. My bloodline, where we come from, we come from Haiti. That you can't do that. Master can't hit us over the head and subjugate us and then think we're going to be okay with it. I understand that's an American concept, but you don't we don't really go for that type of stuff. You can't hit us with a rock and do all those type of things and then hide your hands and think it's going to be okay. And because you're used to that type of stuff, you're used to white supremacy slapping you across the face and telling you, hey, you know what? Be okay with it. You know what? Or hide hands. Oh, no, we didn't do that. Oh, no, we didn't do that. I mean, come on, man. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that, especially when there's evidence of all kinds of fuckery going with your movement. Like people just a week ago that were melanated, and now they're draping their heads. I mean, their bodies in the American flag, and they're leading you, and they're using white supremacist talking point. Like, no, I mean, no, you can't. No, it doesn't work like that. I understand that the damage has done, but some of the damage has. You can't damage me like that. You can't damage my son like that. I mean, we got to get out of this mentality. Come on, man. Soul Traveler, man. What's up, kid? Wants to change the laws directly affect black immigrants' parents and automatically, yeah. I mean, listen. Haitians, for instance, have been coming over to this country for the longest. I don't know how the hell we have to keep explaining this. Like, there is a reason that they wanted to keep the Haitians out of that. They wanted to keep the Haitians out of that. I just read an article. They said that Haitians, for instance, in Louisiana, was influencing populations. I mean, not populations, but politics so much. I don't know, man. It looked like Carmen. I mean, I had to get stopped for a second. I think Carmen called the dogs on me, man. I think she might have called her white supremacists on me to mess up my live feed. I think no. Oh, it was a phone call. I'm sorry about that. We identify we are focused on our agenda. It's not personal. I mean, again, this throwing rocks and hiding hands, it's crazy how you guys can get manipulated. You can get manipulated. It's not personal. It's not personal. Yvette Carnell, that's one of your leaders, right? It's not personal. She's part of the LGBT community. She's part of the LGBT community. You don't think some of this is not personal for her? The fact that African countries and Caribbean countries do not accept her lifestyle, and she might not even be able to pass for black in Caribbean and African countries. You don't think that has some type of personal stuff to her? Tone talks. He even talks about it. How, when he went to UCLA, the fact that, a lot of those, those people that were getting scholarships in school and stuff like that were, Africans. The Africans were dominating UCLA. You don't think that has a little bit of personal personal thing to it. You don't think that shit has person? Okay. That's petty. It amazes me how he wants to change the law. Yeah, it's so you don't think that has some personal the fact that one of the things they said that is when Caribbean folks and African folks come over here, they don't assimilate to with Americans. You don't think that has a little bit of you don't think that's a little bit of like the whole mentality, you don't think that's a little bit personal? Come on, man. Come on. And check this out. We the movement from ADO, I mean like for was it they had a movement CARICOM. I think they've had that for years, and I guess people from the Caribbean for years have been trying to get reparations, and I've never heard of Caribbean people were using Black Americans in America as an scapegoat or making disparaging comments to further their agenda. I mean, that's not something I've ever. I mean, if you guys can find somewhere where it shows that, what, when the Caribbean people were trying to get their reparations, that they were throwing, Black Americans under the bus, or that. And what is so crazy about the like, yeah, I think that they're at me, but some of these talking points are so ridiculous. Like the talking point that those countries never been reciprocated. All throughout history, you don't got to take my word for it. There's been Haiti, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Trinidad and Tobago, Dominican Republic. I mean, there's been pockets of freed slaves, and they've offered them restitution, all throughout history. So that's a talking point that that's a talking point. They say they've never been. I mean, there's the the Liber. I mean, there's they're called Americans. And that's probably there's also in Canada. In Canada, there was I think it's Africaville. All throughout history. I mean, you can't even. That talking point is you can't keep using that. I mean, tell your leadership stop that, and how we've never fought for you. Uh, you know, Haiti has. I mean, I don't know about other African countries, but we fought in wars in America, the Revolutionary War in America, to free slaves, and that was the only requirement. That is that's another talking point. Another talking point. What else they say that I mean, we've never want to assimilate, and or we've never we've always tried to separate ourselves from black people, but the Pan African movements was started from a person from Jamaica, and that was with the focus of uniting black people together. The person that made up, I think it's something Carmichael. I can't remember. I mean, I'm not a historian, but most of us don't know real black history because it wasn't allowed in our curriculum. Yeah, I guess that is the ignorance that's been seeping in. But the person that coined the phrase Black Power is from the Caribbean. was it Malcolm X? Malcolm X, you know, his mother's from the Caribbean. I think Barbados or something like that. Elijah Muhammad or all those guys. Minister Farrakhan. All these people, have a, Caribbean ancestry, and it was almost like, for instance, in Ghana, in those slave castles, when they did the transatlantic slave trade, that the people that were spread around were different. Like, I guess that's revisionist history. Like, we weren't the same people somehow. When somebody says you're not black, I don't know who coined the phrase "not black," but it's like we're not the same people. And one Russ Tim, yeah, one Russ Tim. I don't think that they. I really don't. I think that you're right about that. They didn't want to do that. They didn't really want to teach Black history. You know, why is it, just a couple years ago, people really knew about the Haitian Revolution? And imagine if the typical, like for instance, the typical ADOS person grew up knowing that the reason that a lot of us and our ancestors were liberated from the chains of slavery was because of an island, probably a couple hundred miles off our coast, that said no. Imagine if they would have taught that in schools 30, 40 years ago. Do you really believe that if a lot of these ADOS people probably would have grew up knowing that they would probably have some type of affinity? They probably wouldn't have looked at, when the Haitian came over to America, they would probably look at them a lot different. They'd be like, man, this person right here, contributed to us, being, having these shackles away from us. Maybe they would have had it probably would have been a greater appreciation. Maybe there would have been more of a focused effort to make an investment in Haiti or something like that. Maybe that. Maybe if they would have really taught us what what Jim Crow really was, what what the real stuff was, the hidden history of just melanated people all around the world. Maybe a lot of ADOS people would have looked at us more instead of looking at us as the American booty scratcher, or the Haitian body odor, or one of those guys that are trying to take their position, as someone that they can call their brother. Maybe that, but you got to understand, we've talked about this for a long time. The system of white supremacy. It's a sophisticated system. It survived these hundreds of years, probably. I don't know how long white supremacy has been, on top, but it survived hundreds of years for a reason. It's pretty effective. It is pretty effective. I don't know. It's like we're so focused on the institution of slavery that we don't even look at the effects of colonialism. It's like we've kind of marginalized colonialism. Like, Africa has not been going through colonialism. For instance, when people mention Jim Crow, they don't really talk want to talk about. I noticed, man. I've been noticing on my live streams when I say certain words, and I don't know if it's just the artificial intelligence. Whenever I say certain words on these live streams, like I'm not going to say those words, but my stream stops, or I have to start over. There's somebody definitely monitoring this. You know, they're monitoring this. I'm probably saying a little too much, but especially one page. I mean, I'm glad she definitely corrected herself. She said haunted, not hunted, because I was like, God dang, it ain't that serious. It can't be that serious that I'm just voicing my opinion on something. I'm actually agreeing with some of your sentiment of how you are probably a little bit more damaged. I think than a lot of other people in the African diaspora, which maybe and it was crazy is the ADOS is the richest group of Negroes on the face of this earth. They have they have more resources than everybody else. Um, Recently found out about the Haitian Revolution and Black history through the Tariq Nasheed's documentary, and now I've been researching it on my own. Yeah, there's a lot more to it. Um, I'll give props to Tariq, man. He did a good job on that. He definitely did a good job on that. He definitely opened up the story, but there was a lot of other things that I've been learning. The fact that they gave slaves free land, was it 10 pounds of coffee, to come over um, to to what do you call it, Haiti, to so they'd be able to compete with Americas. That's something that happened. The different wars that they fought over, the influence of them, throughout Midwest in the South. A lot of people don't talk about, since was it like the 1790s or something like that, 1780s or something like that, that Haitians have been migrating over here and creating little pockets uh, that still have the Haitian influence. A lot of people don't talk about that, but it is what it is, man. Uh, it's in us having the conversation of this of just ADOS, breaking down the ADOS. I think it's scaring a lot of ADOS people, because the Pookie and Ray Ray fraction of the ADOS is they're worried about a check. They're just worried about a check. Now people are intellectualizing their whole movement, and like I always say, whatever is in the dark will come to light. And there's a lot of things that their leaders, they made it a very simplified thing, but now there's a whole bunch of things that they have to deal with. When you do have this type of movement, how do you explain, people that on their census pass for white, but yet they can prove that they had a descendant of a slave. They've been able to live in the lap of luxury, as whiteness, because there's been a lot of Negroes that have been able to pass for white. So they haven't really lived the black experience, but when the checks come out, they can get right in front of the line and say, hey, you know what, give me my check too. What about the people, that have been freedmen all their life? They've been freedmen. They, their family, even though they're black, even in the Caribbean and whatever, they've never had to been subjected to this type of slavery and things like that. I guess institutional racism is something that they could um, think, but you also got to understand this mind trick. Um, you know, Over the last 10 years, you know, something that's been in our vernacular has been the word the words white supremacy and racism. And then when you have the ADOS, that is actually been out of our vernacular for a long time right now. Let me look at some of these comments. Many ADOS don't know African colonialism. The many Africans don't know about transatlantic slave trade. There's so much ignorance between us. You're right about that. You're absolutely right about it. Let's not forget about LGBT history of applying strategic infiltration tactics to hijack the benefits acquired by others through struggle. ADOS is one of these infiltrations designed to do. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and they've, I mean, even if they know they're being infiltrated, they probably won't admit it. You know what? Who wants to admit that they're a sucker? Nobody. It's a legal term for a class action lawsuit for unpaid wages and social terrorism. Stop playing games, bro. American descendants of slaves is that a class action lawsuit. This is why okay, so it's a class action lawsuit against the federal government. Helping Hand, please explain that. I mean, if I'm playing games, please explain that. You can't just come in here and you can do whatever the hell you want to. You know, you come in here, then you try to sun me on this thing, stop playing games, but a class action lawsuit. So was this against the United States government? I mean, that's in the, no, you just said it's in the same vein as a class action lawsuit, but just like I discussed in my video before, is how the hell you sue a corporation that we know is bankrupt, and then we ask another corporation to pay for the bankrupt corporation? How do you get a this is the thing. This is what's so frustrating sometimes, man. It's like, I guess people just want to get the best of you. I mean, I guess that's what it is. It's like, I mean, there's so much there. It's you attract more niggas with vinegar than you get with honey. That's what it is. I guess you attract more of them with vinegar than you get with honey. I guess I don't even know. A class action lawsuit. Okay. All right. I guess it's not even. Real resources which are tangible. Okay. Real resources which are tangible could be routed to our agenda. That is, it's one of the things about this whole tangible thing. Like, you know, you have this disingenuous code word that it's almost, I don't know, maybe they start their own propaganda or own whistle, a dog whistle. You know how like white people have dog whistle language. They've started this new thing called tangibles, right? And we know what tangibles are. You know, we know what intangibles are. You know, you can touch tangibles, you can, you know, land and those type of things, right? You can do that. So they've had a campaign where they want tangibles, right? And they want politicians to promise them tangibles, not through legislation, but through campaign promises. We know what campaign promises are. And we know those are not tangible. But yet we're going to rest everything on that. We're going to rest everything on that. You know what? We are going to be like, hey, you know what? We're going to hold you hostage, Bernie Sanders, for these tangibles. And we want you to promise these tangibles, even though we know that promising these tangibles might cost you an election. Just because, we want you to promise us that. And we want you to run on just strictly our agendas. So we want to be tangible. So we're going to negotiate in public. We're going to be like, hey, you know what, Bernie Sanders, we want tangibles, or we're not going to give you our vote. We're going to let a person that we haven't negotiated with, that hasn't promised us anything, that has a history of saying, F you, we're going to let him win because we want something tangible. Either I'm deaf, dumb, and blind. We want our own. We're owed tangibles. If we don't get them, then we'll expose the intent of power and agenda. You just said, like, I don't understand how a person that claims that they have no power, they've been subjugated, that have no power, that have been subjugated, is all of a sudden is trying to go to the negotiation table and demanding things. You guys are saying that you're willing to relinquish your power. Like, saying you're playing in a system that says, you know what, you have to have political power. You have to have this political power in order to get anything that you want to. But we're going to relinquish it and go to the table and have, with no power, no negotiating power, and then start demanding stuff. I like the point there. Come on, man. I have to, like I said before, let's just stop it. And, you guys keep following these puppets that's feeding this propaganda. They're feeding this propaganda, and the only way to really get what you want is to have a third party. That's basically that's really what you have to do. You have to get a third party. You have to get a third party. You got to be able to get all the black people on code with the third party. And even if you don't win the nomination, then you start your negotiation, because you come to the table with a position of power. So you want to sit on your hands, right? And be like, hey, you know what, Bernie, we're going to sit on our hands for Bernie, for if you don't want you, and then we're going to make you lose this thing. And then all of a sudden, when Trump wins or his agenda wins, we're going to come to him trying to negotiate with him. That doesn't make any sense, because I'm going to be looking at you. You know what? I didn't need you. Why am I going to negotiate? What do I need to negotiate with you for? Come on, man. White supremacy knows not to promise specifically to white. They use dog whistle language. The problem that we are having with ADOS movement is they want everything in one campaign. Yeah. The fraction competing for control will have to acknowledge our political presence. Okay. I don't really understand, and you guys help me understand this. The person that you're threatening everybody with didn't need you. He didn't need you. He didn't promise you anything. He hasn't promised you anything. So I guess, where do you get from the status quo? Okay, let's just say you are able to get what you want, right? You're able to get Trump back. I guess, where does where does that? I mean, where's the progression in that? Where is the progression in that? I want to know where is the progression in that. Like, okay, you take yourself out of the block and just let the white folks and the Latinos, control the vote and control everything else, and you just let them, battle it out, and you sit on your hands and you negotiate with you don't want to negotiate with Cory Booker because you don't like him. You don't want to negotiate with yeah, every time I make some type of remark, but no, we didn't show up last election. Well, you didn't show up, and then what did you make a deal with somebody? With somebody? I mean, I guess you didn't show up, and I guess what was the winning? I mean, was that a winning formula? I mean, okay, you got Trump, and the pastors, the cooning pastors already got all the, they got their all their reparations, so they're they've been really quiet, so they don't really need any reparations. So, I please let me understand the strategy of tangibles. That is what I'm trying to understand the strategy. You are a campaign. You're negotiating in a campaign for campaign promises, but you haven't really brought any money to the damn table. Like, I think Bernie Sanders like raised a crazy amount of money within like a first week of his campaign, and it doesn't seem like he wanted anything to do with you guys. Didn't seem like he wanted. I mean, I kind of felt like, damn, Bernie, you're telling us that you just don't even get it. Like, you're not even like soft shoeing. You're not doing anything for when you had this reparations talk. And this is and this is and he's a symbolic guy. That is a symbolic guy. This is a guy that was in those sit-ins getting beat up by cops with civil rights leaders. Like him, he's not even good enough. Like, for you, he's a symbolic guy. So others do us. We didn't show up. No, it was indifferent to candidates available. Give ADOS reparations. Are some of us curious of what happens next? I've never ever been non-reparation thing. I've never ever been that. Shit, my wife is ADOS. Shit, of course. But my son, he's a descendant. Of course. But we have to keep in context what reparations is. We have to keep in context what reparations is. What reparations is. It's about repairing damage, repairing, the black infrastructure, or creating one. It's about that. And I could be wrong. I don't believe that repairing this infrastructure should be led by the alienation of people that look like you. The alienation of black immigrants. I don't think that should have been like the basis of this. I think it strictly should have been about reparations. I didn't think it was necessary to make it a point to do that. I don't think there was an African person out there that was like, hey, I want some of these, even though it's American descendants of slaves, I want some of these reparations either. I don't think that ever happened to Haitian, but the blatant disrespect, the blatant calling out of of our ancestors and saying disparaging things about us, then you have a problem. I mean, I don't know. Why is everybody hating on us? What's owed to us? Nobody hating on. Okay. We're focused too much on presidential election. We need to focus on House and Senate and local elections. Yep, absolutely. Agreeing with the above. Politicians don't respect people that don't fund their campaigns. We're not really funding your agenda, and it isn't organized as it should be. There really isn't specific agenda. No, there's not. I mean, that's the thing. Um, the face of this movement are entertainers. They are entertainers. That's what it is. They're not politicians. They're not lawmakers. They're not anybody with any type of political power. They're just babbling heads. They make their money, or make a living, entertaining people. That's just what it is. I think as soon as a lot of people can understand that there's not an agenda right now, and there'll probably never be an agenda. Like, shout out to the Haven Bullets. Haven Bullets made a video today, and it had the lady Yvette Carnell. Yvette Carnell basically said, "You should hear her. It's crazy." A caller put her on the ropes, and then she was like, "Well, give us the reparations first, and then I'll look at it and I'll figure out what we're gonna do with it." That's what she said. If you think I'm lying, I'm dying. Go ahead and look on go ahead and look at Haven Bullets. He has a video on there. That's what she said. She was talking about how reparations wasn't a check, whatever. But she said, you know what? Give us the reparations, and then we'll take a look at what we should do with it. So there you go. There's no agenda. I mean, that's just what it is. It's the agenda part of it. I mean, it's easy to say reparations, because this is not a new phenomenon. I mean, 40 acres and a mule have been on for a long time. Thinning of the herd is mandatory. The true circular spirit of our natural communities, humanity, is too congested. Those who serve the race take bribes. Yeah, of course. That's just how it is, man. I mean, it's always been like that. Just like, I don't want to totally take a crap on Tariq Nasheed, even though he's made disparaging disparaging stuff about us, but he did, borrow light. I mean, the butter biscuit, the butter biscuit, it's the biscuit, the trinket, or whatever that the slave master has always promised. It's always been like that. It's always been like that, and they always get bribes. It's name a town. I mean, like, name a part of history that you haven't had people sell you out. The only reason the LGBT is getting so much is because there's a big corporate money behind it. Absolutely. There's big. I mean, if you look at most of, you look at Tim Cook, you look at was a leader of Apple. There's numerous of them. Music industry exec. They're all LGBT. It's not a butter biscuit. It's wages and reparations owed. No, I'm not talking about people with the ADOS helping hand. I'm talking about the leadership, the leadership that they bribe to manipulate you. Instead of going to greener pastures, they get you to run into a burning building. That's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about any what you are deserved or whatever. I'm talking about the leadership behind it. Instead of going to greener pastures, they always direct you into a burning building. That's just what it is. The true servers of the race take no bribes. Of course, they don't take any bribes. And you can be bought and sold as you want to. They buy and sell them all the damn time. Like somebody's put the reason that the LGBT community is so much, and it's crazy. It's the leader of the movement is that, and it's not in it's like how come that has happened? Because among a large number of black people, that organization was considered very anti-black family, very anti-black male, and one of the faces of this new movement is one of the leaders of it. And I just want to understand why. And the target of a lot of the sentiment of this is anti-immigrant and anti-immigrant, and it's not anti-immigrant, it's just anti-black immigrant, anti-Haitian, anti-Trinidad and Tobago's, anti-Jamaican, anti-African, anti-this, anti-all that. And it makes you wonder why. Why? Is it because, a lot of those countries and a lot of that culture does not agree with those type of lifestyles? I'm just asking that question. It can't be a coincidence. I mean, it really can't be a coincidence. And it can't be a coincidence that Ann Coulter, she wrote a book called, was it Adios America, which is ADOS without the I. Ann Coulter shares a lot of the same talking points as a lot of your leaders. Is that a coincidence? And the thing is most ADOS, a lot of vocal ADOS people are pro-Trump, and a lot of propaganda that you get from conservatives is the same type of propaganda that you guys get. I mean, that you guys like to spew all the time. I mean, what is it a coincidence? Is it just a coincidence? I don't know. I can't say it can't be a coincidence. Reparations aren't bribes, if that's the statement. Nothing about it requires us to betray anyone. It does. I mean, if it does, then we'll let them have it. It doesn't even matter, man. I mean, this helping hand person, the fix is already in with him. Like, it don't matter. It really doesn't matter with him. It's not about race. It's not a race war anyways. Will ADOS take the lead in the race war? What is it? No, it's not about race. It's about lineage. It's about lineage. It's about that. It's about lineage. It's not about race. It's not about race. Have you guys heard that before? Have you guys heard that before? Have you guys heard that before? You know what? It's like you know how like Fox News their deflections whenever like you have like people talking about black issues and things like that, and they would be like, what about black on black crime? What about black on black crime? And then whenever you talk about um you're talking issues, and I think they've learned a lot. I think they've learned a lot, especially from like the Republican propaganda people. It's like, what about black on black crime? What about not black on black crime, but what about reparations? Not what about um, I guess what about affirmative action? What about Jim? Like, it's what about ism. It's like what about ism, and it is a great deflection. I mean, it's a great tool. I mean, you guys learned that shit from the white supremacists, so I think it's a tremendous tool that you guys have at your disposal, especially in this movement. So I got to give you guys credit on that one. You guys really stay on code on that one, because if you go, like, for instance, under this video, or under my video, you'll see like the same people saying the same thing over and over and over, like stay out the way, or get out the way, yo, get out the way. Biggie Smalls just got dropped, or get stay out the way, or thank you, or oh, it's not about that, it's about getting what's owed to us. It's what about this and what about that? What about the African that comes over here and takes our jobs or some shit? It's just like the same MAGA strategy that Trump used to rile up white folks is basically the same shit. Is repackaged a little bit. You guys should refine it a little bit, especially for like the Pookies and Ray Rays, because they're just being straight up disrespectful. It's not totally. It's deeper than that. Race is a control label. Yeah, of course. Look, oh yeah, it's a control label. What now? Now, okay, it's not. Okay, yeah. We see what's going on, Helping Hand. Race is a control label. So now, now you're trying to take. Now you're trying to take black away off the, okay, so you're, oh, okay, I see what you're doing now. It's not about race. Okay. You can't sun me, son. Yeah, it's not about race. Yeah. Got you. I got you, man. We understand. You learned from from the white supremacists. So you probably studied the white supremacists, so you are really good at using this tactic. So, and I commend you for being able to learn, you know what I'm saying? Like Einstein says, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is insanity. You're twisting words. It's like the race label, like you just said, the race is a control label. So you're trying to separate yourself. You're not black anymore, basically. You're not black anymore. Let me guess. We shouldn't talk about race anymore. We shouldn't. Just like the Fox News. I mean, this is just another way of you saying it's not about race. No, I'm just saying your own comments. You said race is a control label. What was your intentions on that? Just like how Fox News used to be like, oh, it's not about race. What are you talking about? What was the point of saying that? ADOS can support everybody, but where's the love for us? It's reparations, not a stimulus check we owed. I sound wild. No, you just said race is a control label. So we shouldn't use race anymore. So if it's a control label, so you basically say that we shouldn't use it anymore. We should just go by let me guess. We should go by Instead of saying black descendants of slaves, we should say American descendants of slaves. Boy, you are so good. You are so good. You are so good. So that means if I'm Irish and I was a descendant of slave, that means I should be part of those reparations too. An American descendant of slave. You guys are like, what I'm saying is like the helping hand person. You guys are so goddamn crafty. I got to give you all the credit in the world because you guys are so good. He's like, now race is a control label. So we should never, like, you know what? We should not be defined as black anymore. We should probably be defined as ADOS, which is the American descendant of slavery. That way, all Americans of descendants of slaves can get in there and get in that chick. But we don't want you immigrants. We don't want you immigrants in that bitch. We don't want you guys in that bitch. We don't want you. You a little too dark to get in that bitch. It's bigger than reparations as much as you feel pride in your nation. The ADOS D. Okay. Now it's DOAS. Okay. Have the same pride. Now I'm down here in South Florida and most of my coworkers are Haitian or Jamaican. Yeah. So it's DOS and there's FB, I think it's FBA, was it Foundational Black Americans, with descendants of American slaves or African slaves. I don't know what I don't know what that means. I think I think that is I think that's a different one. I don't know if that's a different one or not. I mean, somebody tell me. I think DOAS stands for descendants of African slavery or slavery. Actually, American descendants of slaves could include everyone if you think about it. North America. Yeah, it's, but like I said, and maybe you guys was not listening to me, that all throughout history, this is what the white supremacist has done. They've done the same exact thing. Affirmative action. You know what? This is exclusively for you. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm just saying, it's like he just talked about it. He just said, and then you gotta words do matter, because when you are trying to make a legal argument, you're trying to make a legal argument. You're trying to make a legal argument in a court of law. That's what you said, a lawsuit or whatever. But you say that it's American descendant of slaves. Now you have North America, you have Central America, you have South America. You're trying to, and then and the judge makes that ruling. So if I want a piece of the pie too, and I'm from Central America, and the ruling says, if you're an American descendant of slavery, you get this amount. What does it stop me to say, you know what, even if I'm Irish, I was a slave or indentured servant or whatever, and I can prove that I was a descendant of an indentured servant or whatever. What does it stop me? What does it stop me? But what I'm saying is throughout history, They've always muddied the waters. They've always done this, and you guys have fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. We spent decades and centuries helping others, but we're saying we're going to start addressing our own issues. Now it's divisive. No, no, it's not. No, no, it's not. Like I said, it's like it's a real thing. It's like, and I understand that you guys have learned this shit from the goddamn white supremacists, which is you're probably your great granddad. You guys learn that it's in your blood. You learn the deflection method. You've learned in the way of keeping you've learned. You guys learn. I understand it. I understand it. I'm not clowning anything, man. Started a movement called Crystal Black Servants of Fatherland. Does foundational Black American mean that you are on the bottom in everything? Yeah. Shout out to Soul. Like O1 in original Matrix, we're going to desert to build our own through father's techniques. Yeah, they same thing. I mean, it's any prison would possibly then be able to make the claim at being a slave. Any prisoner, yeah, any prisoner. Slavery still exists in the U.S. See the 13th Amendment. Yeah, it is. It is. I don't. I mean, I really don't. I really don't. I think the reparations part of it is. I think. I think it may be a smokescreen. I think it's a smokescreen because if you look at it, the ADOS, if you look at from a perspective of money, I mean, they're the richest Negroes on this face of this earth. You know, they have more money than anybody else, any other Negroes in the faces of earth. I really believe a lot of this movement is the same thing, just like when the end of slavery, instead of being free and being emancipated and enslaved, people were trying to integrate. People were trying to be equal. I think that has a lot to do with more. I think the reparations part of it, like, you know, the big check, you know, if I get the $400,000, you know, I'm almost white. I mean, I can afford, you know, and they talk about the wealth gap, and I think that's a very strategic way. You know, if you can equalize, you know, in terms of being wealthy, no matter what your state is, if you can say that you have the same wealth as white people, I think that will make you feel better about your current state. Even it could be whatever, but if those numbers can look right, you know, if on paper I can be on par with white people, even though I didn't fix my educational system, even though I didn't fix or repair a lot of the damage that this mentality has done to me, but if I can somehow feel equal to the white man, maybe that is going to make things feel all better. Dems introduced Equality Act to ban LGBT discrimination bill and add sexual orientation, gender identity to the classes protected against discrimination by the civil rights. I don't know what year they do that, but they co-opted it, so whatever. That should have been different legislation, but you guys aren't appreciating the complexity of the legal terminology. It's being described for the express purpose of clarity in courtroom, like, okay, if that is the case, then why the hell do you have, like, for instance, you have your leadership, right? You have Yvette Carnell, Tone Talks. They've made up ADOS. And then in the same leadership, you have Tariq Nasheed, that's, waffled on ADOS a couple times. I think he tried to say DOA, or descendants of African slaves, or DOAS, or FBA, or he's had a couple other acronyms. Other people, just in this case, another person came with an acronym. If that is the case, then why are there so many variations of that legal terminology? If it's distinct to you, or the complexity is, that's what you put. We're not appreciating the complexity of it. So if we're not appreciating complexity of it, where people on that are part of your movement are describing different acronyms or different definitions of the same terminology. I mean, you're smart. I mean, you smart as hell. You're gonna sun me somehow, but tell me that. How? You sound wild. We want to be white. When we teach our kids, they want to be like us. You're talking about lineage. You're talking about the American embracing your heritage. You're talking about being foundational Americans. My question is: the state of Louisiana part of the old French sold to? Yes, it is. It is. I mean, it don't matter. It really doesn't matter. They're trying to find the right term. But you just said in your argument that you guys are not appreciating the complexity of legal terminology. Legal terminology is specific to a thing, and you guys are trying to provide clarity. How is there any clarity in the acronym ADOS when you can have, what do you call them, synonyms or other acronyms that mean the same damn thing? I just throw my hands up, man. Throw your hands up. Throw your hands up. Is that what? Throw your hands up. I believe the best reparations that all African diaspora can get is for the West to get out of Africa and end the sanctions to Haiti, Zimbabwe, black people having the right to reciprocate. Yeah. Honestly, to tell you the truth, sometimes I really don't believe, and I talked about this before, it's like sometimes you have to learn from other people. And they use the model all the time. I mean, I don't know why they don't use this model more. It's the Israel, how Jewish people were able to get settlements, not reparations. They were able to get, well, that's what America helped them get, settlement from the French, because they, through a lawsuit. It's a different precedent, so people should learn about that. But if you look at Israel is, I think, is a model that a lot of people from the African diaspora should have used, especially people that had the unique experience of being enslaved with these countries' borders. It should have, instead of fighting to be integrated, they should have fought for a holy land. Just like, I mean, I don't think they should have did it in the same fashion as Jewish people did, is the Palestinians. But I think something like that should have happened, instead of, because if you look at Jewish people, they don't really make no distinction between their subsets. They don't make any distinction between an Orthodox Jew or a Hasidic Jew, or maybe they may be the same thing, but they don't make those distinctions. And I think that we should have fought for that type of thing. That way you could have fought for your own government. But that being said, you had the first black republic just off the coast of America that was once considered the jewel of the Caribbean, that was offering you asylum. They were offering everybody asylum, to come over there. I think maybe, I don't know, if that was the idea or the intended purpose, but they were offering you asylum. And you didn't take it. Matter of fact, most of you came back. No, Haiti. Haiti. Haiti offered asylum. They gave asylum to, and they've had multiple movements where they were offering asylum and land to Africans, indebted Africans. It's a discussion, so contributions have to be made to develop a better perspective. ADOS may not be the best term, but it won't hurt to start the dialogue. No, it doesn't hurt. It absolutely does not hurt to start the dialogue. If anything, you need the dialogue. You have to have the dialogue. Dylon. Anyways, man. But the thing is like you have to. We just have to be honest on a lot of those things, and the title of my video is like, I do understand. I mean, I won't understand completely, and maybe I'll never understand. Maybe I'll never understand the plight of a descendant of a slave. And because I'm probably from the Caribbean, and I've just had a different experience, because I really did not grow up with the stain of this form of slavery. Maybe my parents and my siblings, because I was the only one that was born here, maybe they were born and kind of lived in the stain of French slavery. They're descendants of slaves too. So I have a unique experience, and it's hard. I tell you what, it is kind of hard to navigate this experience, because it's definitely different. I was born in this country. My parents had a unique experience overseas. I had a unique experience versus everybody that I grew around. I always looked at this world as a big ass opportunity. I looked at this world as a big ass opportunity. My uncles, my brothers, my family members was not subjected to the same things like Jim Crow and all those type of things. Maybe they were. I mean, Haitians have been coming over here for years, so I might have had some descendants or ancestors over in Louisiana or Chicago or one of those type of places. I don't really know, but you haven't seen the full effect of the beast. Thank the ancestors. No, neither have you. Neither have you. But you have not experienced colonialism. You haven't experienced apartheid. I mean, you haven't experienced, you were getting lynched while people were getting their head chopped off in a guillotine. It's like two abused people saying that your abuser was worse than my abuser, instead of saying, oh man, we were both abused. It's like, it's a one-up in victimhood. You know, and you're some of you guys are talking out of both sides of your mouth. You're calling yourself a victim, and you're calling us an opportunist, and then you're calling you're saying that, and then I mean it's so confusing to me. It's really so confusing to me sometimes, man. The problem that I'm seeing the U.S. reparations that is in order for the reparations to have value, you have to maintain a system of U.S. imperialism, and because without it, the dollar would be worthless. Yeah, it would be worthless, and the thing is and the thing let's have another conversation. Let's talk about this notion that, like, for instance, African immigrants and Caribbean immigrants are coming, especially black ones of the African diaspora, are coming over here and co-opting and doing all kinds of stuff, right? And you know, a lot of these guys, one of their main talking points is like, oh, you know what, you know, if it wasn't for us, our blood, sweat, and tears, and our tax dollars and stuff like that, you would not be getting these opportunities. But it doesn't. That right there doesn't jive. It doesn't jive because it doesn't jive because even when Napoleon, like, Haiti was one of the richest, was one of the richest places in the world because of its plantations and things like that. And you guys remember, United States was a French territory, right? All those profits and stuff like that, United States directly, directly benefited from. The reason that you guys were able to build such a great nation was because of the resources that came out of Africa. Those people, blood, sweat, and tears from the Caribbean. Don't get that shit twisted. So if you want to be all the way honest about everything, we have to put everything on the table. Like, the British owned most of America, right? They owned Canada and stuff like that. And who was providing those resources to the British? The Spaniards. Who was providing those resources in those islands that had sugar? That was one of the biggest cash crops ever. Who's providing a lot of those resources? Don't forget that the transatlantic, like, slaves were on the shore of the Caribbean and Haiti in 1512. I don't think they started over here until about the 1600s. So you have to remember that bloodline was slaves way before you were. I mean, it's the same bloodline. You know, they came off, I mean, the coast of West Africa. But if you want to talk everything, let's get it all on the table. We've almost reached the zenith of beast mode. Would you deny a lifeboat because the Siffish? I mean the. Would you deny a lifeboat because the ship is sinking? True. They did us dirty. We do each other dirtier. We do. Yeah, you're right. They made ancestors slaves. We do that to each other. Yeah. The only true reparation is liberation of Africa from the West. I mean, I really don't think that anymore, because you have a large group of people like the ADOS that's pretty much fractured the Pan-African movement. I don't think that's such a movement anymore. Maybe that was uh, the the agenda to cripple the Pan African movement, because you know Africa was one of the fastest growing places, as far as economies. Haiti was actually one of the fastest growing economies, even though it was a third world country. It was one of the fastest growing. I mean, far as an investing place, if you ask actually Akon even made a video about it, about how investment in Haiti is, I mean, in Africa was like, if you wanted to be a millionaire pretty much overnight, you can go to Africa and make some investments. And the Chinese have pretty much, they're taking advantage of it. So it does make sense if you look at it from that perspective, why the Pan African movement needed to be taken down. You because I think you had a couple people that showed up even on the Forbes list as billionaires from Africa. I think a couple of them made the list. You know, somebody was an alert. We need to divide these people. We do need to divide these people, and we have to keep coming up with ways to divide these people. You know, instead of just having a universal movement, we need to, hey, Africans, I mean, not Africans, but Americans, you need to look out for yourself. You need to look out for yourself, which is fine. But we need you to make disparaging comments about these people. We need you to do that. We need you to we not only need you to separate from your African brethren, your Haitian brethren, but we need you to put your foot on their neck. That's what you need to do. And mark my word, I said this in my last video, and actually I got to get some work done. I've been YouTubing too much. Is they're going to, you can be Pan-African and ADOS. No, you can't be. No, you can't be. But no, you cannot be. You can't be African. You can be lesbian and Pan-African at the same time. Come on, man. You get off the boo-boo, man. No, the hell you can't. You can be you can be anti-immigrant and then want to go live in immigrant countries. You sound wild. So you can be anti-immigrant and then want to go live amongst the immigrants. You sound wild. Hey, so you want to be so you want to go to Nigeria, and say, hey, Nigerians, you guys are scammed your way into our school system, and you guys are bootleggers, and you are, instead of goat herders, you guys are bootleggers, shysters, scammers, and all kinds of stuff. And then now we want to go and be like, hey, let's go in your country. Fuck out of here, man. People like to jump in a fight and nobody on nobody's side. Okay. Hey, Haitians, you guys are bringing AIDS over here. You bringing AIDS over here. But all right, let's come with us and join hands with us in Africa. Just wear some gloves. Fuck out of here, man. I really think, listen, Haitians, we did not ride on the back of turnip trucks. So we can't fall off a turnip truck. We can't. We don't have a cotton picking mind. That's a little jab. Anyways, man. Are you out of your cotton picking mind? Our side, AOS side is AOS side. Yeah, I guess so, man. I mean, it is what it is. True people here don't even entertain that. Get out of here, man. you can't be ADOS, and that's just like saying you can be a feminist without. I mean, you can be a lesbian, but not a feminist. Like, come on, man. It sounds like Tariq got you with the AIDS comment. Yeah, yeah. He was he but no, he was playing both sides of the fence. He was playing both sides of the fence. What he was, I mean, it was like it was funny when he first said it because it was purely entertainment. He said some about I mean I think Haitians bringing AIDS over here or something like that, and then he kind of backtracked it, and then I think he put himself in a hole for a little bit, and then the way to get out of it is he stuck to his normal things was Negro bedwenches and white zaddy, and and he blamed it on white supremacy. he, 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 he blamed he blamed he blamed, he blamed AIDS on white supremacy and white zaddy after he threw like Haitians and Caribbeans under the bus about having AIDS and bringing it over to he was bashing on Obama, because you got to placate to all your listeners, and then a lot of his listeners are anti-Obama people, so he wanted to jab, like, hit Obama over the head a couple times. So he hit Obama over the head a couple times, and once he hit Obama over the head, then he started in on Caribbeans and Africans and shit like that, and then and then I guess maybe his room was getting mad, and then all of a sudden he shifted to white supremacy, and how white supremacy is creating all the AIDS because there's white zaddy sleeping with these all these African women, these those African bedwenches from Nigeria or whatever. I don't know what it was. It was funny. It's not funny because he's kind of shitting on a whole class of people, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying. What are you gonna do? Stop it? You can't stop it, man. You can't stop the rain. Anyways, man. I gotta do some work, man. Almost 2.5 hours, man, and I only got 2 likes, man. Make sure you guys get that likes up, man. Even though if you don't, even if you don't like it, you know what I'm saying. Get your likes up. Would you tell your brother don't sue for a wrong done to him because your name won't appear on the check? I listen. I never ever said anything about not getting reparations. You deserve reparations. If you're a part of this institution called America and you're black and you're, I guess, a descendant or whatever, you grew up in this thing, you deserve it. You deserve every bit of it. You deserve every bit of $100 trillion. That I'm never disputing that. Now, you call yourself American descendant of slaves, right? And instead of going on the merit of you deserving those reparations, you start. I'm talking about this movement. I'm not talking about black people deserving any reparations. You have a distinct amount of people from this movement that made it a point to single out black immigrants as a cause of their state, of the current state that they're in, saying that we were complicit in the state that you are in. Who would not have a problem with that? Who would not have a problem with that? You tell me. If I see somebody's mother, I slap them. I slap her mother. Slap their mother. Is there going to be any understanding between you and that person that slapped your mother? Is there going to be any understanding? Tell me. We don't live like that. We don't live like that. You can't go and punch me in the face and expect me to give you a love tap. You can't just say fuck all black immigrants and then it's like if it's fuck me, then it's fuck you. Simple. I mean, that's what it is. And then you can't keep making these false narrative and blatantly using revisionist history to make your point and think I'm just going to be okay with it. That is something that you have to take up with your slave master. Your slave master has been able to use that tactic on you. He's been able to use that tactic on you, and you've been okay with it. You know, I don't live that way. I just can't live that way. But anyways, man, peace and love to the family, man. You know, Helping Hand, man, I love you. You know, black brothers, everybody out there, man. How did the ADOS and the rest of our people get into an issue over reparations and stoop to insulting each other? I don't know. I really don't know, man. I don't really know. I don't really know. I just hope it. For my wife's sake, for my son's sake, I just hope the reparation happens, not the repair, not the check, not the money, the pile of money that doesn't mean anything. I hope the reparation does happen, so my son can have, his generation can have a better life than I did. So that's all I hope for. So peace and love to everyone.